All right, audience, I'm going to take murder off the table for now. What a way to start a show. Murder is off the table for now. I'm going to argue that I think it's off the table throughout, but for now, let's work that murder is off the table. All right, then, what to do about people walking, falling, or stumbling into Lady Bird Lake in the middle of Austin and dying? It's a big problem, just so you know, that's become national news. I guess there's two follow-ups to that. Why are people walking, falling, or stumbling into Lady Bird Lake in the middle of Austin and dying? Then you can say the issue of the day is going to be, how can we prevent people from walking, falling, or stumbling into Lady Bird Lake in the middle of Austin and dying? There. Murder's off the table for right now. Here's an apology up front. No, I don't need to apologize for this, but I'll say it anyway. More than once over the next 10, 15 minutes, I'm probably going to say Town Lake. And I'll say Town Lake because 99.9% of you have no idea what that even means. I'll tell you what that means. I'm one of 3 people in Austin that's actually from Austin. I grew up here, and what you know is Lady Bird Lake, and most of my life has been Town Lake. So excuse that mistake every now and then. All right, that said, here's a quick lesson for everyone who doesn't know what Lady Bird Lake is. It is the Colorado River running through the middle of this great city. On any hot day, not even a hot day, but hot days, you'll see 1,000 paddle boarders on the water. I've run the trail around the lake for more than 30 years regularly, and maybe even longer than that. I'm a member of the Trail Conservancy, which is a organization that works like crazy to preserve the trail around the lake. That body of water running through downtown Austin and the trail around it is a way of life in Austin. If it's not a part of your life, I think that's a problem, to be honest. I think you should make it a part, but that's just me. What happened is weird. What's been happening and the concentration of what has been happening is really just too weird. Did you hear me earlier when I said I'm taking murder off the table for right now? This is all over the news, and to be honest, for pretty good reason, because it's too weird. It hasn't been handled well publicly by the city, and I can tell you from my long experience here, one of the things that is rarely ever talked about, nobody wants to go there, there's 2 things. Actually 3. How bad dirty 6th Street is, what happens to people on 6th Street, and the number of people that have drowned in Town Lake / Lady Bird Lake through the years, but nothing like what has happened over the past 20 minutes.
And tonight,
20 months, I should say. I didn't mean 20 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes. But there are 2 news stories. This is all over the news now, and for pretty good reason, because another person has died.
And tonight, a continued push for safety near the water next to Rainey Street.
Families of Lady Bird Lake drowning victims met with the Trail Conservancy and city staff to see what's being done to fix things. KVU's Ford Sanders caught up with those families just after the meeting wrapped up. Good evening, Ford.
Quita, Brian, like y'all said, these friends and families are now getting the chance to meet with the Trail Conservancy and the city to see what they have planned to make sure that no other families or friends have to go through what they have. Now, they met at the start of the trail over on Rainey Street. There's solar lights here now, along with increased park patrols, and the city's set to add cameras and permanent lighting soon. Earlier this month, 33-year-old Jonathan Honey was found dead in Lady Bird Lake nearby. 30-year-old Jason John was found dead in February. Tonight, Jason's friend Josh Gale was a part of this conversation. He says they're pleased to see the city wants to work with them to ease their fears and keep other Austinites safe.
Some of the plan, phase 1, a lot of that was already in development before Jason went missing. So they are allowing us to piggyback on that a little bit, and they definitely are altering little parts of it that they can, but a lot of it's already been approved and put into place. We're fans of it because it does build towards everything that we're asking for.
Gail also tells me because of the drownings and loved ones they have lost, there actually will be a phase 2 to make even more safety modifications here by the lake. Now, we're actually still waiting to hear from the Trail Conservancy. We have tried to reach out a couple times. We were told tonight they would not be able to comment. Their CEO was not available for an interview.
All right, next up, I think this is, I don't know if this is this Fox or Inside Edition, one of them.
I'm Dave Freilich. Thanks for watching this Crime Watch YouTube exclusive, where we take a look back at recent crime stories that have been making headlines in our area and across the state. Austin police are investigating a death after they say a body was found in Lady Bird Lake. The body was recovered from the water along Cesar Chavez between South First and Congress. Fox 7 Austin's Tan Radford has more.
Our initial thoughts were, hopefully it's not our friend. You know, we just don't want it to be our friend.
Jaden Wolf and a group of friends were drawn to Lady Bird Lake after hearing Austin police recovered a body from the water while they were searching for their friend.
He went missing Saturday night at like around 11:30 on 6th Street. We were all just at the bars. Thought he went home with someone else and didn't end up coming home the next night or tonight, so that's what brought us out here.
Around 1:30 Monday afternoon, Austin police received a check welfare urgent call.
A caller stated on the north side of Lady Bird Lake, 20 feet in the water, he thinks he found a dead body.
According to the police, they arrived to the scene to find a person dead in the lake along Cesar Chavez between South First Street and Congress, bringing fear to the group of friends and those that frequent the trail.
It's not saying if it's a male or female. So yeah, we're kind of hoping to figure out a little more information and get the word out that our friend is missing. We're all from Utah. We're here for work, so there's like no reason he should be missing at all. Like we all got here like Friday night. We're here for work, and then he went missing Saturday night.
It'd be hard to see how this could be an accident. I mean, it's pretty shallow water here. You have signs everywhere, so I don't know. It'd be hard to see an accident. I think if that was like the reason given, it'd be hard to believe. It has to be something going on with all the previous bodies found.
Abdul Tabaka rides his bike
there. Okay, so I believe another body has since been found since that story aired. I believe this was a 59-year-old woman. Okay. Oh, man. Unfortunately, I will tell you this. People have been drowning in that body of water for years. It's only been highly publicized over the last year because of where this has been happening and how many. I mean, it's 10 or 11, I guess, now in 20 months, 18 months, something like that. And there was 4 in a 2-month period at one point. All right, so nobody can blame. I'll say this up front. I don't think anyone can blame the families for wanting answers. That, of course, starts the real questions. He was intoxicated, although the last body that was found was a woman, but is he was intoxicated and drowned at night answer enough? Because that's been the answer. I don't think so. I don't. I just think that's what has led to this becoming a giant story with Facebook threads and everything else, including people saying, and I can make a pretty good argument, tell you all about the body of water. Wait a minute, how can somebody drown in waist deep water? So he was intoxicated and drowned at night, is that enough? I mean, is that what happened in all of these cases? Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. But there are cameras everywhere. The city and the police, I'm not going to accuse them of sweeping it under the rug, but as I told you, one of the things historically that is just not talked about, it's not addressed, you really don't want to go there, is how awful 6th Street is and how many people have been drowning in Lady Bird Lake for a long time. It's just, it's a part of the city, and it's not something that you want to run rampantly the way it is in the news. That said, the answer, he or she was drunk, walked into the water, stumbled into the water, and drowned, is not going to be enough. Is that all they know? I guess that's possible. It's hard to believe. Watch how many times I say hard to believe now. Because if you don't provide more detail, then he or she was drunk and stumbled into the water, walked into the water late at night, if you don't provide more detail, thousands and thousands of people are going to go to Reddit groups chatting about a murderer. And that's what's happened. Been happening for a while. Can a drunk person stumble home or to their car and end up drowning in the water? Yes. But to have more than 10 in a year is hard to believe. I'm not saying it's not true. Remember, I started by saying murder is off the table for now. I'm not saying it's not true. What I am saying is it's really, really hard to believe. And then someone is going to say, but Jeff, more and more people live in downtown Austin. More and more people live near the water. More and more people are partying near the water. So just by numbers alone, won't more people end up drowning in the water late at night? Yes, more people live in downtown Austin, but people have been getting drunk in downtown Austin for decades. People have been getting drunk on Rainey Street for at least 5 years. And this didn't happen. Not to this extreme. People have been living in downtown for quite some time, and you didn't have these kind of numbers. I get it. I get why people would say, well, just naturally, they just stumble into the water. The water is a long way away from everything. They're not parking lots necessarily unless you're going down there during the day on the trail. But these aren't parking lots along the water. Bars are not next to the water. There's no deck. There's no bar with a deck out front or out back and somebody just stumbles off into the water. It's not that way at all. Condo towers, yes, are all along the water. They are hundreds of yards away, though. In the case of a couple of these people, maybe even more than a couple, I think 3 or 4, they would have, as they just said about their friend, he was on East 6th Street. That person had to walk almost a mile to the water. I mean, a straight line. And they go right in the water. When there's no parking there, you're not parking along the water. So why drunk people would end up next to the water, it doesn't add up. Is that what's happening? I guess so, but it doesn't add up. It's not what people do normally. Is it what's happening? I'm willing to accept it for now. I am. I'm willing to accept that. I'm just telling you how hard this is to believe and why I think there is some justification for these people to go, my gosh, this is weird. So, all right. At the very least, the bar closest to Rainey Street, or the bar closest to the water on Rainey Street, would have to be at least 400 to 600 yards away. And that's a restaurant, and a really good one. But, okay, so it's 600 yards. Where these people have been drowning for the most part, it's not necessarily deep. I've done triathlons, by the way, in Lady Bird Lake. I can tell you about the water. Now, I wouldn't recommend you do that. I would not recommend getting in that water at all. But it's not that deep, and it's not like there are rip tides, where a lot of them reportedly have been going into the water. It's waist deep, unless you just keep going out. I mean, you have to really want to go for a swim. If they're leaving bars, and that's what's been reported, so we're just going to accept that. Leaving bars, then you're walking directly into the water. And I don't know why you're walking there. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, but people are hammered. Somebody walked a mile drunk past a lot of bars, a lot of people, a lot of parking lots, a lot of Uber rides, past a lot to walk straight into the water is just hard to believe. It's probably what happened, but it's really tough to believe this number of people ended up walking straight into the water. They don't fall because you're not hanging around the water. You would have to be walking to the water. If they're leaving bars, okay, and that's the assumption, so that's what's been reported. That means, could that happen? Yeah, I guess. But could it happen to more than 10 people in a few months? That's what's hard to believe. The number of people in the exact same spots ending up in these exact same places is what's tough to believe. Jeff, are you implying there's a murderer? I'm not. I took murder off the table. Murder's hard to believe as well. It is. That one's almost as difficult to make an argument that people have been murdered and ended up in the water drowning, because the police are saying, and I don't think they're wrong, hey, these people end up in the water and they're drowning. I don't think it's I don't think it's murder. That didn't add up either. I mean, think about it. How are they being murdered? I know this is what people love to do, and everyone's in the Reddit threads. I get it. I mean, I get why people are ending up here. I think the city has an obligation to do a better job of talking about this, explaining this the best they can. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you just can't explain more. Maybe it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and somehow, some way, a bunch of people in the very same demographic of the same age are walking the same body of water. Maybe that's what's happened. It's hard to believe. It is in the city's best interest to do a better job of explaining. So, the murders. I mean, how would they be murdered? Are they shoved into the water? Really? Up until recently, all of them have been guys between their mid-20s and mid-40s. But that's 85% of who's drinking in downtown Austin every night. And it's not like, just to play off the murder theory, which is harder to believe than people walking into the water. But the murder theory, you don't meet someone on Rainy Street and go, hey, you know what? Let's go down and stare at the water. There's nothing to stare at, okay? There's nothing there. People don't do that. Very few do that. And even if you wanted to walk down there, you don't stumble into the water that often. All right, so let's work with the police take on this, and that is drunk people end up in the water somehow. They don't say any more. I don't know that they know more. I don't know that we have any video cameras, although there's cameras everywhere. How to stop it from happening. Here we go now. You've heard the news reports now, what to do, more cameras, stuff like that. What's the city supposed to do? Cameras. Yeah, that's being reported now. There are cameras everywhere, you do know, in Rainy Street and downtown Austin. I mean, there are cameras everywhere. So cameras along the water, and I'm telling you, I would assume most of these condo towers also have cameras in the back, but how are cameras going to stop people that are walking into the water? Because that's the way it sounds. They're walking into a body of water from far away, too. How are cameras what are they going to do? Or is that how we're going to catch the murderer? I don't think it's a murderer. So what do you suggest? I mean, what does anyone really suggest? It hasn't happened yet, as far as I know. But now that there was a 59-year-old woman recently. Okay, if and when it happens again, and if and when it becomes national news again, because this is all in the past week, I don't think we're that far removed, if you're not there already, from saying, build a fence. I mean, I'm sure it's been kicked around already, and I suspect one more tragedy, somebody who gets drunk and walks into the water again, then I think I don't know that it's game on, because this isn't going to be as easy as people think. But I suspect it's going to be kicked around. I don't know that it's been debated by your political heroes locally, but here's how it would have to go. A fence around the body of water. I don't think many people even know this, which depresses me. A fence around the entire body of water would be a 10-mile fence. Okay? Actually, probably much more than that. But what else can you do? All right? You wouldn't put, I hope, you wouldn't put the 10-mile fence or longer fence around the entire trail. That means people would have to go through gates just to get on the trail, which would defeat the whole purpose of that thing. But you could, I guess, somehow, some way, have more than 10 miles of fence going all the way around the body of water and have it go just along the water. And then I guess you would think that would keep people from drowning. Would people go for that? I guess. Not many people even go near that area anymore. Well, no, a lot of people do, but a lot of people that have moved here have no clue what I'm talking about anyway. So you'd have a 10-mile fence. It'd cost you a lot of money, and it would look and feel terrible. It would. It would look and feel terrible. Oh, well, Jeff, why would it look terrible? What do you mean, why would it look terrible? You built a fence around the entire lake? Really? Anybody ever stop on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and watch how many people just park their cars wherever they can to go get in the water on a paddle board, of which I would recommend you wear a life jacket, but, there's a problem by itself. So if you really want to build a fence over this, it'd have to go all the way around the lake. It'd have to be right along the water, and it would look and feel terrible. So... well, walk around there sometime if you have no clue what I'm talking about. And then ask yourself, do you want to pay for at least a 10-mile fence? Would it really work for whatever it is that's going on and why these people end up drunk, I guess, walking into the water, I guess? And whether or not you think that would feel and look would be the responsible thing to do, and how much would it cost, how would it look, and how would that feel?